This was to be a smaller, more sporty, more affordable car and was named after Studebaker's president, Albert Russell Erskine, the same president of Studebaker who would meet his end at Studebaker Proving Grounds. But before getting into all of it, I'm Jay. Welcome to What It's Like, the automotive channel that digs lost and mostly forgotten cars. So many get caught up in getting the latest and greatest appliance. When the speed limit's like 85 at most, why not drive a machine with class and style? These cars were built to match your status and personality. We talk history, specs, design. Most importantly, we show what these cars are like. Post between 4 and 5 episodes each week, with engine episodes generally on Wednesdays. If any or all or none of that applies to you, subscribe and hit the bell icon next to it to never miss a video. It's hard to believe, but the next episode, which is coming tomorrow night at 7:30 Eastern Time, is going to be totally live. The whole show is going to be live, and we have to move it up to 7:30 because my wife likes to go to bed at 6. So she's making a compromise for us to hold the camera while I do this. It's going to be very interesting, and I hope to see you there. There's going to be a Q&A. Ask me anything at the end of that episode. 1927 Erskine model lineup. But before getting into all of that, Erskine was a brand produced by Studebaker named after President Albert Russell Erskine, who was president of Studebaker from 1915 through 1933. Albert, we're going to be on a first-name basis with Albert, otherwise it's going to get kind of confusing. Albert joined Studebaker in 1911. Albert was driving the Studebaker ship towards building more advanced engines, and Studebaker was more upmarket. Albert knew Studebaker needed an entry-level car, so Albert would build a car with his name on it, the Erskine. Erskine was the entry-level product. Studebaker was in the center, and in 1928, Studebaker would buy Pierce Arrow, which would be at the top. They would hold on to Pierce Arrow until 1933. Erskine was produced from 1926 through 1930. Then it was followed by another car called the Rockney. There wasn't anything in 1931, but in 1932 through 1933, Studebaker produced the Rockney. The crash of the stock market, it really put Studebaker in the red. Albert Erskine was successful in strengthening Studebaker's core. That helped Studebaker survive the early years of the Great Depression, but Albert also encouraged the payment of stockholder dividends from the Studebaker capital reserves. As the Depression deepened, it pushed the value of the stock up and it weakened the company. Pierce Arrow had to be sold off to investors to try to free up some capital. Albert Erskine was faced with the loss of his company. He decided he couldn't fix what happened, and he decided he didn't want to lose his job either. Albert Russell took his own life right there at the back of the Studebaker Proving Grounds. But on a happier note, Erskine was first launched in Paris, France to try to expand Studebaker's presence in the European market. Introduced in 1927 for American market, marketed as the Little Aristocrat, which it got its name while it was over in Paris. Studebaker used Continental engines to try to keep costs low. The bodies were designed by Ray Dietrich, manufactured by Budd, and got high praise from both British and French press. They sold well until the Ford Model A came out, which undercut the Baker by $470, almost in half. To compete, Erskine was originally on a 108-inch chassis. It was lengthened to 114 inches and powered by a Studebaker 6. Erskine was eventually absorbed into Studebaker in 1930. Let's talk specs. 108-inch wheelbase. It weighs 2,300 pounds. Price, $850, which is equivalent to you spending $15,317 in the year 2024. Total 1927. Erskine production was 24,893 units. Moving on to engine. Only one engine on offer for this car. 146 cubic inch displacement, inline flathead 6, the 8F Continental engine. It produced anywhere from 40 to 44 horsepower at 2,400 RPM with an estimated 90 pound-feet or 122 newton meters at 1,600 RPM with a bore of 2.625 inches and a stroke of 4.5 inches, and backed by a 3-speed manual transmission. This puppy could go 5 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour in 8.5 seconds. Let's talk styling. The bumpers, 2-piece with 3 bumperettes holding it together. Notice the center one is different than the ones on the outside. Also, just check out how it is mounted to the car. The lights are connected to the fenders. Well, technically, they're connected to this bar, which is connected to the fender. And the bar is bracing for the fenders so they don't flop around while you're driving down the road. Nice mascot. Erskine badge there. The fenders don't really have a bead or anything. But look at the side profile design. Also notice the mirrors are mounted to the top of the fenders. There's one for the passenger side, as well as one over here on the driver's side. I love the color of this car. It's like cream with like a tannish color. Just look at how it tapers down here towards the bird mascot. And then it spreads out as it goes back towards the single piece windshield. This one has a spotlight on the passenger side, as well as these cowl lights, cowl vent. Toolbox, stepping plates. This car has wing windows. Does not have drip rails because it's a Phaeton. The rear fenders are just like the front fenders. Just kind of get capped off here and then rolled, slightly rolled underneath. Bumpers are half bumpers back here, but they got 2 overriders on each. And that takes a bit of a break for the spare tire in the center. And then the other set of bumper. This one has 2 brake lights. Real glass window in the back. Door is super basic, no armrest. You can just use this as an armrest. There also isn't any map pockets for the side curtains, which would connect onto here. If you get stuck out in weather, you have these side curtains that you can put on. Door handle to get out. Notice the seat to side ratio. My hand is 7.5 inches long. That's all the more space you have to get your feet into there. Coming down inside the pedal box down here, clutch, brake, gas pedal, which is almost like a button. Then there's a foot pedal to rest your foot on. Starter button at the top there. The heater is also down there, as well as handbrake and gear shift selector. Here is what over the hood looks like. Here is what first person over the hood would look like. On to the button switches and knobs, starting at the steering wheel. And I think the two levers that come off of the steering wheel center are for the headlights. One side is for low beam, one side is for high beam. Which side is which? I'm not entirely sure. Horn in center. Stuart Warner speedometer with odometer and tripometer. Amp meter, gasoline gauge, oil pressure. The silver bit that's protruding out of the dash is the actual panel light with the switch at the back. Ignition, the handle at the bottom of the dash is for the cowl choke. Up above, you have the windshield wiper motor as well as a rear view mirror. Let's take a quick gander at the pillar to glass ratio or greenhouse in this car. It's very open because it doesn't really have windows or sides because it's a Phaeton. This is what visibility looks like out the back from the front seat, as well as you can look back here at the passenger compartment, which looks to be very spacious. Rear door is a lot like the front door, no armrest or a place to put the curtains. It does have a heater. That's what this is. Floor heater. This is a footrest. Robe rail to put a heavy blanket on in the wintertime. Ashtray. I guess you could use this as an armrest. There are not any dome lights. Just look at all the inner workings of the convertible top mechanism there. On the positive side, this is a different car. Unless you're at a Studebaker show, you probably will be the only person at any car show to have one of these. Against it, it was a car to be second wind for Studebaker, but it ended up being another straw for the camel's back. Parts, information, especially engine information, is really hard to come by. After knowing the Erskine story, this car kind of sort of has, I don't want to say bad juju, but it's got a darkness about it. And it's not a bad car, it just has a bad stigma about it because of the guy that it's named after. But that might be just my opinion. The engine is notorious for being underpowered and not long in longevity. It's known for wearing out, and it was only used in 1927. In 1928, they went to the Continental 9F, which was way more reliable, according to what I read, of course. All right, now it's time for Would You Rather. Two scenarios today. In the first scenario, would you rather have a 1927 Pontiac Landau sedan for $895 or 1927 Erskine? I'm going to make a bit of a confession. I don't know how to say his name. I asked people, and the general consensus was half the population said that it was Erskine, and the other part of the population said it was Erskine. So I have no idea. And it really sucks when that happens. But anyway, or 1927 Nash Light 6 for $865. I'm going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. Moving on to the second scenario. 1927 Chrysler 50 touring car for around $885, or 1927 Erskine touring car for around $850, or 1927, and I'm talking basement model, Chandler 6 for $945. I'm going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. Now it's time for Name That Tune. First person to get both the name of the band and the song title correctly in the comment section will have their comment pinned to the top of it. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching this. If you'd like to get in touch with me, shoot me a comment in the comment section below. I read and answer all comments posted. I don't say that for self-worth. I just say that if you take the time to write a comment, I will take the time to read it. Also, this is a car community that I'm very much a part of. Until next time, toodaloo! 1927, Erskine. The rest of the video doesn't have sound. This is all of the B-roll that I took of the Erskine. Enjoy. Put on some music, grab a drink, do whatever you wish.